Now I know what you must be thinking. Deborah, what the fuck is this? I don't know. I know. I'm sorry. I just recently read the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in preparation for the upcoming movie, which is coming out November 16th or 17th. Just one cute thing before we start. This video was recorded over multiple days, so I will not be looking like this throughout the whole entire video, only in the second half, because I needed to do my hair and I'm black. So, you know. And number two, if the lighting sucks ass, I'm so sorry about that. And without further ado, let's get into it. Period. Let's start from chapters 1 to 10. Okay. From the book, we start from a narrator's point of view, but everything is very much focused through Coriolanus. Everything is from the POV of our man, the ultimate menace to society, Coriolanus Snow. Coriolanus is, of course, one of the capital families, the Snows. So there's a certain amount of capital families that are just known and high ranking and also very rich and popular. And the Snows were one of them. Coriolanus Snow is the son of our man Crassus Zathanos Snow. This middle name is gonna come back later. And Mrs. Snow, who doesn't really get a name. Why? I don't know. But unfortunately, his parents are very much dead. He is now living with his cousin, Tigress. Tigress Snow, I just wanna say I love her. I stan. I support. Literally one of the sweetest people in this whole entire book. You cannot fucking tell me anything.
You're doing amazing, sweetie. Wow, look at her go.
Tigress is his cousin, and both Snow and his cousin live with their grandmother, the grandmam. In the book, he's like boiling cabbage soup because even though they are one of the richest capital families, they are piss poor. It's a very interesting juxtaposition because Snow's name, the family name, keeps him in the capital, but a lot of people don't actually know that they do not have money. So my man Corio has to go outside and save face for the rest of his family, but the reality is that they truly have like nothing. And the book starts on a specific day, which is very, very important, the day of the reaping for the 10th Hunger Games. That's right. It's been 10 years after the first ever Hunger Games have been established, and Coriolanus is studying at the academy in the capital. This academy is only available to capital families and their children, obviously, and so he's in this academy, this high school. By the way, I think they're like 16, 17 at this age. So like, yeah, they're all really young people. Actually, before we continue, can we just talk about these damn costumes?
Bombastic side-eye. Criminal offensive side-eye.
I digress. Anyways, basically, thanks to his communications professor, Snow, or Coriolanus, gets an opportunity to be a mentor to one of the tributes in the upcoming Hunger Games. This year, it's different because the mentors are chosen from students, unlike the previous years before. Thanks to the evil genius, Dr. Gall. She doesn't even get a name tag. The reason that they are piss poor we'll get to later, but basically, just so you know, and this will be unraveled more and more as we go, there was a war. There was a war between the districts and the capital won the war. As a result, there were a lot of people who were injured, a lot of people who died. There was a food rationing. Everyone was poor, even people in the capital. A lot of people did not survive it, and very few people still had their fortune. And unfortunately, Snow's family was one of the families that also dealt with the blows, right? We'll explain that a little bit later. So this is the day of the reaping, and Tigress does everything she possibly can to make sure that Coriolanus Snow can have like a new shirt so that he can appear well in high society. This is something that's very important, and this is a theme you will see later, that Snow in the first chapter alludes to the fact that Tigress, because they do not have anything to possibly trade with other people for other valuable items, might have had to sell her body. And while he alludes to it, you find out later in the book that this is actually a definite thing that Tigress would have probably had to do to get normal food and to be able to make sure that the rest of her family eats, which is horrifying. Tigress, a lot of the times in this book, is really like one of the sweetest people, which is why I stan her. But again, this is where you start to see Snow's character come in, because he says something specific, and I'm going to read out the excerpt to you. Nobody can know that his family, once one of the most powerful in the capital, is now as poor as district scum. As he cooks, Coriolanus worries about his shirt. His cousin Tigress found the old shirt in the back of Coriolanus' deceased father's wardrobe to fix up, but she and the shirt are gone now. She doesn't have anything to trade for something better except her body, the thought of which makes Coriolanus sick. He immediately dismisses the thought afterwards and he's like, no, us snows have not fallen that far. But the reality is that unfortunately they had. And if it wasn't for Tigress, they probably would not have survived. You also start to see here that Snow is a very, very self-centered, egotistical, and dare I say it, narcissistic person. But really, I don't know whether he borderlines on narcissism, psychopathy, or sociopathy. I think he's definitely in between that triad because he gets worse. He does not get better. He's very self-centered, and all he's focused on, even though there is a possibility that his own cousin has to sacrifice her body for their family, all he can think about is the Snow name and making sure nobody knows that they're poor and making sure that he saves face and that he's not embarrassed. Because it's all about him. Screw this dude, honestly. So Coriolanus finally gets his shirt. And also a side note about the grandmam, their grandmother. The grandmam lives with them. She's very much, I think, in her 70s. The thing about her is that she's also equally classist because she's capital. But the grandmam has like of something very valuable where she actually grows roses at the top of the roof of their house, which is very strange, but I don't know how that like it's built. I'm excited to see how they do that in the film. Also, which is something that will come back later, but the grandmam every single morning sings the Gem of Panem constantly. Like girly really said, I'm gonna wake up this morning, you know what my tunes is? Gem of Panem. Why? Personally, I just think it's kind of funny, low-key, high-key, how like the first thing you do when you wake up is sing Gem of Panem. Not even like, you know, a stretch routine. No, okay. Gem of Panem, that's what we're doing. All right, and that's gonna come back later. Corio gets his new shirt, right? And he goes on to the academy down to Heavensby Hall where they're having the official reaping. He goes to see his classmates, and that is when we're introduced to a myriad of other characters. So he's talking to his communications professor, and he's trying to like, you know, do his bold face because he's like, yeah, I'm a Snow, and even though I have no money, he literally says in the book, he knows he has no money, but all he can do is be charming because he needs the social status. He needs to save face. So while he's socializing, we get to see another very important character, my favorite boy, my bestie for lifers, Mr. Sejanus Plinth.
I-T-G-I-R-L. You know I am that girl. Shh, bitch, don't kiss and tell. It girlfriend ATL.
So Sejanus Plinth comes in as one of the students who's been chosen to be a mentor for the tributes, and instantly, Snow hates Sejanus Plinth with a passion, and it will only get worse from here on out. Sorry. Basically, the reason that Coriolanus hates Sejanus is because Sejanus' family was originally district. They were from District 2. During the war, Sejanus Plinth's father, Strabo Plinth, which, can we just discuss these names for a hot damn minute? What kind of name is Sejanus? Like, damn, what the hell are these names? But I digress. So Sejanus, Strabo Plinth had a ammunition sort of like manufacturing business company, God knows what, in District 2. And because it's ammunition, of course, during the war, it boomed. And as a result, their family came into a lot of wealth. And they came into so much wealth that Strabo Plinth, this man over here, was able to buy a lot of buildings back for the academy and ensure the reconstruction of the capital. So basically, Strabo Plinth used his money to get back into the capital and make sure their family could be seen as capital as well. And because he's got the funds, you can't really speak against the person who's got the funds, right? But basically, Coriolanus and Sejanus, this all happened while they were kids, BT dubs. Like, it didn't happen like when they're 16. It happened when they were little children, when the war was going on. So just know that. Unfortunately for Coriolanus, his family also invested in ammunitions, or whatever company Strabo Plinth was also doing, but their family invested in District 13 rather than District 2 because a lot of capital families actually have their investments within each district. I know like either District 6 or 7 is for agriculture and another one is for fishing. For Coriolanus's family, District 13 was where they actually put their investment in. And after the war, District 13 got nuked, unfortunately. May their souls rest in peace. As a result, Coriolanus's family lost all of their money basically, and the war made it 3,000 times harder. And that is why Coriolanus hates Sejanus Plinth. He sees Sejanus Plinth as a climber, as a social climber, and he's not really capital. Even though Sejanus is literally the sweetest person to him, personally, in my opinion, Sejanus gives real like golden retriever energy. You know, I absolutely stand, not as much as Peter Malark, but there's definitely golden retriever energy with Sejanus, okay? The thing is about this weird sort of rivalry that they have is that Sejanus doesn't know that Coriolanus hates him. Like, because this is in his POV, Coriolanus constantly degrades Sejanus' plinth, but like, he doesn't know because Coriolanus is such a good pretender. Sejanus comes to Coriolanus and he's like, hey boy bestie, even though we're not really besties, but hey boy bestie. So the capital is going to start taxing people and their homes as I think like after the war, I think they just didn't have enough funds. So the capital was like, okay, we're going to start taxing the rich families as well and not just the districts. So this means the whole entire time they were taxing the districts who were already poor. And now they're like, well, maybe we should tax the rich. Girl.
Death to all of them.
Which means that Coriolanus' family, who already doesn't have nothing, is now going to be put under pressure. And he's low-key freaking out on the inside, but he cannot show it. Which, fair, fine. So, after all of this, the reaping ceremony starts. And all the tributes are called out by none other than Dean Tasker Highbottom, the man who created the idea of the Hunger Games. I'm gonna call him Highbottom. He's definitely an addict, and he's addicted to this thing called morphling, which I feel like is like a real world representation of either coke or morphine. But the morphling it's in droplets, and so he like puts it on his tongue. But I don't know if that represents coke or morphine or a weird mixture of both. Anyways, basically the whole thing is a mess. Also, immediately you can tell that Dean Tasker Highbottom does not like Coriolanus Snow. Why? We will find out later. Coriolanus is assigned a girl from District 12. Enter Lucy Gray. Immediately, because Coriolanus is selfish and only thinks about himself, he is immediately like, why do I get assigned District 12 and Sejanus gets assigned District 2? Even though that's kind of horrible because Sejanus is from District 2 and he still considers himself District. So Coriolanus is pissed about the fact that his name is at the bottom of the list and that he's been assigned someone from District 12 because previously in the games, everyone from District 12 easily dies. Anyways, the tributes come out and nothing really stands out. And then our bestie, our girlie here, the superstar, she is the moment, she is the living legend, she is the icon, Lucy Gray, comes out. When she comes to her turn on the stage, Lucy Gray is wearing this very interesting colored dress and it's like full of ruffles, which is kind of makes her look like a performer at the circus, but not in a clowning kind of way, in more like a performer kind of way, which is something that Coriolanus takes note of. She has a snake in her dress pocket, basically, which is strange. And the snake like gets out and it hurts/bites the mayor's daughter called Mayfair Lip. And the mayor's name is Mayor Lip. Sorry, like the snake goes into her dress. I don't know if it really bit her, but I knew it went into her dress, right? But as a result, Mayor Lip is pissed. He is pissed. He's like, my girl was just embarrassed in front of the whole entire stage. Hell no. And so Mayor Lip goes and he slaps Lucy Gray in front of everybody.
Wait a minute, hold up.
As if it is normal for a grown man to be slapping young girls in front of world stages. Make it make sense. And Lucy Gray is definitely about to cry. And then the weirdest shit happens where like a child starts to sing within the crowd. And then Lucy Gray is like, you know what? Period. Let me sing. And she starts singing this song. And let me just tell you right now, Lucy Gray is the Beyonce of Pan Am. Y'all cannot fucking tell me nothing. She starts singing the song that goes along the lines of like, you can't take my soul. And I say, okay, girl. Not this being her Renaissance era. Not this being her Renaissance album at Pan Am. Excuse me. Like, girl. I better see a Pan Am remix of Lucy Gray. Okay? For Beyonce. You won't take my soul. I'm clapping. But it's true. That is literally like some of the lyrics that she sings in her song. And like everyone's just kind of stunned because they're like, okay, random. Because music really isn't that much of a thing in the capital besides at clubs. So everyone's like, okay, but like she's a good singer though. Like, oh, okay, not her giving, not the song eating. Like even the peacekeepers let her sing. Coriolanus, at first he thought like she was crazy, but then he was like, actually, this can work. And he now sees her as a gift rather than the burden that he saw her before. The reaping ends and they go get lunch. And basically, this is where we get the first interaction between Dean Highbottom and Coriolanus Snow, bitch. This is where this bitch comes to fight this bitch. It's so uncomfortable because none of the children get to eat, and we'll get to the children's treatment later. Coriolanus is thinking to himself like, okay, he had to eat cabbage soup at home, so this food looks good, but because he needs to have self-control, he cannot be seen pigging out on the food. And what Dean Highbottom does is that he passes him like a huge piece of pie instead of the modest piece of pie that Coriolanus takes. So he gives him this big piece of cake and he's like, so what are you gonna do? What are your plans after school? And then Coriolanus is like, yeah, like his family is gonna pay for university because if this doesn't work out, right? Because he has to save face. And Dean Highbottom is the only one who truly knows, besides Snow and Tigress and the grandmam, that they have nothing. And he's like, that's a fucking lie. That's not true. You know that I know that you know that your parents, nobody in your family can pay for nada. So don't fucking lie over here, okay? Why do I keep on saying his parents even though his parents are dead? But you know what I mean. Coriolanus freaks out because he's like, oh my gosh, like why does this dude hate me? I think he gave him a nickname. I forgot what the nickname was, but he's like, oh my gosh, is it because of the nickname that this guy hates me? No, it's not just because of the nickname, but we'll find that out later. Coriolanus low-key kind of freaks out and he realizes that if he's gonna win this thing, he has to make sure that his tribute sells. He has to make sure he works with his tribute so that he can stand out. And so in the next chapter, in chapter 3, he goes to go to the train tracks where the children are being transported. The children are being transported from their districts in cargo cages that were used for livestock animals. These people do not care about these kids one stinking bit, so much so that like a lot of the children, they have no shoes on. The peacekeepers treat them horribly and they're transported in cargo cages. Besides that, Coriolanus goes to the train tracks because he thinks to himself, okay, this is different. Like, what do? I need to make her trust me so we can win this thing. And he's also secretly attracted to her, which like, he's mesmerized by her. He's attracted to her. He's like, wow, like, okay, but we have to stay focused because we need to win this thing, right? He stands waiting for the train track for hours, bro. And in this scene, we're also let known that Mr. Crassus Snow, his father, was a military officer or like a high-ranking military officer, and he was killed by rebels, which also adds to why Coriolanus Snow like hates districts. Besides the general capital attitude. So just so we can sprinkle that in there, just a bit of trauma. He doesn't even have time to process that because he meets Lucy Gray and like he gives her the rose that comes from his grandma's garden up in the roof. And he's like, these are for you. And Lucy Gray is like, so what else does my mentor do besides give me roses, you know? And I was like, girl, not this weird ass flirting, but it is what it is. Lucy Gray does something weird where like she takes the rose petal and she eats it. And I'm like, girl, now, hold on. You lost me there. And she said that when she was a kid, she used to bathe in rose petals and milk, which starts something that Lucy Gray is known for. I don't know whether Lucy Gray is a bit delulu, right? Or she like makes up things, which if she's a delulu girly girl, I get it. Okay. But like she makes up things and then she tries everything possibly can to like separate herself from everyone else around her because she tries to make her story like super mysterious, right? And that's one of the times you start to see that. And like you don't know if it's real or not. And this is a theme that's going to continue for the rest of the book. And that also is something that like confuses and mesmerizes Snow because he's like, okay, this is new, this is something. Basically, this interaction happens and then Snow does something brave. So Snow is like, okay, how can I get this girl to trust me and know like we're together, you need to listen to me. How do I get her to trust me, right? And so he does something that no one has ever done before and he tells the peacekeepers like, I want to know where these people are being held. The peacekeeper like doesn't give a fuck because he's drunk. And so he puts Coriolanus inside this cage and Coriolanus realizes how horrible this situation truly is and like how it smells in there because animals have been transferred in there. Like the opinion of the capital when it comes to the districts is that these kids are animals. That's basically what they're trying to say, which is horrifying. But we'll get into that later. And so Coriolanus is sitting in this cage and the District 11 tribute, Reaper Ash is about to beat my man's ass. Reaper Ash is like, why are you here? And I'm gonna bust this man up because he's from the capital. Naturally, the districts and the capital hate each other, right? But luckily, Lucy Gray is the only person that's like, hey, whoa, look, I know you want to kill this man. Okay, I know. But he's gonna help me. He's my mentor. So let's chill, okay? That's the only reason that Reaper Ash doesn't like obliterate him.
Wait a minute, hold up!
So when they're taken in this train, they're about to be like shown to the capital. And what happens is that they get dropped 20 feet down into like, it's where they used to showcase monkeys in the zoo before the war. And all the kids get dropped down in there, including Coriolanus. And the people who are watching from the capital are shook if. They are like, whoa, hey. What is my man Corio doing in there? They're not surprised that children have just been dropped 20 feet, BT dubs. No. They don't care about the kids. They don't care about the districts. No. That these are innocent children that haven't done anything. No. They care about Coriolanus Snow. And it's like a huge ordeal. And everyone's like, why is Coriolanus Snow in there? What's happening? And so Lucy Gray whispers to Coriolanus and she's like, own it.
Electric chair.
That shit made me cackle. And he's like, okay. And so this begins the journey of them tag teaming to become performers for Pam M, okay? These two really tag teamed to become an iconic performing duo. And so Coriolanus like makes a show out of it and he's like, this is my tribute Lucy Gray. And so what he's trying to do is like trying to like humanize her to the capital, even though she is a human and deserves basic human rights. But you know, I digress. They are in shackles in a cage. And the best thing Coriolanus can do is be like, oh, like you can touch her, as if she is a zoo animal. And the worst part is that this is the best treatment that any tribute has gotten in history at this time. So that means that like her being in a cage is prime treatment, which is horrible. I'm so upset. He's endorsing her and the capital's eating it up. Like,
Well, look how she ate that.
Lucy Gray like gets a lot of attention in the media and they're like, oh, like who's this new tribute? Like she's special, like she's this, like she's that. And Coriolanus does this thing where like he will try everything he possibly can to make her seem as less district as possible and more capital because of Lucy Gray's elusive past. But we'll get more into that later. So after all of this hoopla, Coriolanus goes back and he's immediately met by the two ultimate menaces in society, Dr. Gaul and Dean Highbottom. He is immediately reprimanded for being in the cages with the kids. Even the peacekeepers are pissed. Like, why the fuck were you there in the first place? But you see, while Dean Highbottom is hating on my man Coriolanus, Dr. Gaul is looking at Coriolanus in a different light. Basically, she's like, you know, you could end up becoming a game maker because she sees that Coriolanus has some sort of interest in the games out of self-preservation, which is kind of the emotion that she feeds on. Madness recognizes potential madness, if you catch my drift. Okay. And so she's very much keenly interested in Coriolanus because she sees potential in him somehow. It's alluded in the book, but you can see this is where it starts. And also something to note about Dr. Gaul is that she's like a doctor, but also oversees this biology lab where she creates mutated animals. She really spends her time mutating things, and that will come back later on in the story. But anyways, Dean Highbottom is having none of it, and he gives our boy Corio a demerit, which Corio is pissed. He's like, what? I have always had a perfect school attendance, and Dean Highbottom don't care. So he gets a demerit, and he gets super worried about that. But basically, he goes home and he goes to see Tigress and the Grandmam because everything that happened was televised, right? And the Grandmam's also kind of pissed because she is a classist, elitist, capital woman. And again, the way she calls the children from the districts, she's like, their district, like as if it's a slur.
Electric chair.
The next day, Coriolanus wants to go visit Lucy Gray because in the books, you hear like Lucy Gray being on Coriolanus's mind a lot because he's infatuated with her, because he seemingly like hasn't seen anybody like her. And so he goes back to the cages to go visit, and lo and behold, our golden retriever boy, Sejanus Plinth, is trying to feed his tribute from District 2 Marcus, who does not want to accept food from him. But it seems that him and Marcus have an interesting connection, and Marcus might know Sejanus Plinth from somewhere because they're both from the same districts, right? Keep that in mind. Coriolanus is like, hey bro, what the fuck is you doing here? And mind you, again, he still does not like Sejanus Plinth. Sejanus is trying to tell Coriolanus that he thinks it's very inhuman that they would keep these children in cages and like want them to fight each other, and the least he could do was provide them food, which again begins the series of events in which Sejanus Plinth shows that he has a lot of empathy, and Coriolanus doesn't really care like that. Lo and behold, because everything has a camera around this area, Lepidus Mamsley, who is like the presenter person for the games, right? He's like, what's happening here? Lepidus is asking these people, hey, why doesn't the capital feed the kids? Because Sejanus is the one who's actually feeding all the tributes, which again is such a big contradiction to how the Hunger Games will eventually become. You now recognize how badly treated these kids are. Like they're being starved basically. And even Lepidus is uncomfortable, and he like low-key leaves because he's like, okay, I can't deal with this. I'm just here to be a reporter. My bad. This is just a job. Coriolanus now asks Lucy to sing again. But like, he's not realizing that, first of all, Lucy is a human being. She's not a dog. She's not a show dog. She's not a monkey. She's not a circus performer. She's a human being who's going to be put in these games where she'll have to kill people. And Coriolanus finally realizes in his brain, that, hey, maybe Lucy Gray doesn't want to sing because she's fucking starving. And as I said, this will come back later. In the last chapter, Lucy Gray had mentioned that she was not from District 12. She was from the Covey. And the Covey is basically like a group of musicians, of children who are also related to Lucy Gray. That's going to come in a little bit later. Lucy Gray always says that she's not from District 12, but she was actually from the Covey, and then the peacekeepers forced her to be in District 12, and then they've never been able to escape since. Which, is that true? We don't know. Coriolanus is like, yeah, she's Covey. She's not District 12. We don't know that. No. She's special. She's not like the other tributes. And Sejanus here reveals, after all is said and done, that Marcus, his tribute, and him were classmates in District 2. And they kind of knew each other even though they weren't the best of friends. And now Marcus has to be in the reaping. And Sejanus Plinth realizes that if his father had not gotten that kind of money and made them capital, he probably could have been in the reaping, which becomes the start of immediate conflict for Sejanus Plinth for the rest of this book, because his empathy and his emotion makes him a little bit of a target later on. Sejanus, at the end of this, offers Coriolanus to maybe switch tributes because Marcus does not want to eat any of Sejanus's food, and that could possibly lead to him starving to death. So he's like, hey, maybe we should switch tributes because I know you were worried about District 12, whatever. But Coriolanus, since he's kind of struck gold with Lucy Gray, recognizes that actually that's a bad idea. And he's immediately, because he doesn't like Sejanus Plinth, he doesn't like him, thinks that Sejanus Plinth has an ulterior motive. And he's like, what if he's trying to get to Lucy Gray because he can see that she's better than his tribute? No, Sejanus just wants this damn kid to eat. Okay? Coriolanus declines it. And Coriolanus actually is happy about the fact that Sejanus is sad because, I don't know, Sejanus actually cares for Marcus versus this guy's just thinking about himself. So he, in his mind, actually takes pride in the fact that, haha, I have a better tribute than you, even though that is not the focus of life right now, Snow. In the next chapter, Corio goes back to the academy, and the mentors, who are also students, are now sitting in this professor's class, and they've been asked to think about the games, not only what they signify, but also some of the kids are like, I don't know, maybe because it's fucking disturbing. Sejanus is not having any of this, and he's like, it's sickening. And one classmate agrees with him, and the rest of him are like, but you know, the war was also sickening too. Another student who is not on this board, but her name is Arachne Crane, she's gonna come back later, talks about her tribute, who used to be a butcher in her district, and that comes back later. I just wanted to mention that. A lot of this chapter just focuses on the kids get these questionnaires to be able to ask their tributes questions about themselves, and Coriolanus and Lucy Gray end up sharing more information to one another, and Corio admits that he actually doesn't have that much food at home for her, which is the first time he's ever told anyone that. And then they discuss their mothers and fathers and how his mother and father is dead, and they sort of like bond through the trauma of just like being alive in Pan Am, unfortunately. And so while these two are bonding and he's going to class, eventually there's a class meeting where they are all like sitting down and they're talking about their tributes, and Dr. Gall comes in, okay? And she is the instigator. She's an instigator. And she notices that Sir Janus Plinth is not liking these games, bro. But she can't do anything to him because his father, Strabo's got the money, okay? So she has to watch him. And unfortunately, Sir Janus doesn't know how to play things smart because he is very reactive, but the environment that he's in, that doesn't help. And so Dr. Gall asks him, you clearly don't like the games, huh? And so Janus is like, yeah, because it's horrible. And you know what Dr. Gall says? That's good. That's good. We need empathy. We need empathy to make people want to watch the games. I think she's a psychopath. She's a psychopath. Dr. Gall sees everything as an opportunity to work in favor of the game. And you really have to have the mental strength to not be manipulated by what she says. You need the mental strength because the way she twists things, she's like, yeah, we need this empathy for the games. But it's like, no, girl, we don't, okay? You need to stop the games. Towards the end of this chapter, something scary happens. So basically, Coriolanus and the rest of the mentors / students go back to the cages where the tributes are. Now, Coriolanus goes back to Lucy. He offers her more food, and some of the other like tributes get more food from the capital, but the capital still treats the children as if they are like animals who are about to attack them. The District 10 female tribute, Brandy, right, is also in the cage. Her mentor is Arachne Crane. Okay, Arachne was mentioned early in the book as someone who was just extremely loud and just like annoying. And so in this cage, Brandy is being taunted by Arachne. Arachne is like waving this sandwich in front of Brandy. Like she's like, oh, like you need to do harder. You need to do something more for this piece of bread. And Brandy snaps, bro. And Brandy takes the knife that is by Arachne and she takes it out because remember, she was a butcher, and she took out the knife and she slices Arachne's throat. And Arachne dies in front of everyone, in front of the cameras, and in front of all the tributes in Capital. And it is horrifying. And it happens so fast that no one has the time to process it. And it just makes everything 3,000 times worse for everyone. Because now, like, the Capital already saw the tributes as animals, but then one person now killing a Capital kid escalates things between the Capital and the districts, and most importantly, the tributes. And it becomes a huge ordeal. So after Arachne dies, like it's really a gory scene. And so Coriolanus like instantly goes to Arachne and like he holds her, and the tribute Brandy snatches the sandwich that was in Arachne's hands and she like eats it because a girl is starving. She's shot by the peacekeepers to death. And Coriolanus, but people don't focus on that. People don't care. People don't care. No. They care for the Capital kid that was killed. And so Coriolanus, because he goes to reach for Arachne's body, is now put within the spotlight. And in this weird, twisted, sick way, Coriolanus now becomes this weird sort of hero because he was the one who was strong enough to go like fetch Arachne. But like at the end of this, Coriolanus somehow benefits in this weird way because he put himself in the middle of it. And that theme continues throughout the whole entire book. And Coriolanus goes home. He feels strange because he never really was close with Arachne, but they grew up as kids. So he feels something, but he doesn't necessarily know how to put it together. And so he goes into a shower and he just cries, which is the first time we like see him show proper emotion for somebody else besides himself and his own family. And besides Lucy Gray. So Clemencia is the mentor for Reaper Ash for District 11, I think. She is like, has been in the background of all these things, but Clemencia like sees Corio and they're supposed to work on an assignment for the menace to society, Dr. Gall. And of course, Clemencia is fucking like torn apart because she's just saw somebody, like 2 people died within a short amount of time, and it was horrifying. So she cannot work on the assignment and Coriolanus does it without her. Like she gets upset at Coriolanus because she's like, why didn't you like tell me about this assignment? And he's like, I'm sorry, but you know, here it is. Here's what I said. So just say what I say and we're gonna be good. So they both go to Dr. Gall. Dr. Gall is like, did you both do this assignment? It's obvious that Coriolanus did it, but he covers for Clemencia. And, and Clemencia is like, yeah, like I helped, I contributed somehow. She tells a white lie, haven't we all? And Dr. Gall has this like aquarium size thing of snakes. And she has somehow like done some experiments on them so that they can be neon colored snakes, right? She takes the assignment and she puts it inside the aquarium thing full of snakes. And she's like, okay, I want you to fetch that piece of paper from this little, what do you call a collection of snakes? God knows. I want you to fetch it from this box, right? Coriolanus is like, okay, that's kind of fucking horrible, but sure. And so Coriolanus is like shaking in his boots because who wouldn't? It's a box full of snakes, but the snakes ignore him. He takes it out successfully, right? And then she asks Clemencia to do the same. And Clemencia like reaches her hand in there, right? Everything's normal. And Dr. Gall mentions that the reason that Coriolanus wasn't attacked was because if the snakes recognize scent. And if your scent had been on the paper, you see where this is going? If your scent had been on the paper, well, if they're familiar with your scent, they won't attack you. But if they're not familiar with your scent, and guess what happens? Clemencia, the minute her finger goes in there, bro, her whole arm gets attacked by the snakes in this box. Early goes into a fucking fit. And the worst part is that the venom that the snakes have are like neon colors. And so you see this thing happening and you're like, holy crap. And Dr. Gall is just like, I don't tolerate lice.
I beg your pardon?
Okay, if you don't tolerate lice, then just give the girl detention. Don't put her hand through a box of snakes, which could potentially kill her. Everyone like in the laboratory has to like run to get Clemencia because she needs a fucking anti-venom and she's taken away. And we don't see her for another chapter. And this terrifies Snow. Like Dr. Gall was already fucking scary beforehand, but this terrifies Snow. Like he is shaking, quaking in his boots, bro. And honestly, same. Horrifying. It makes him realize that even though as much as everybody proclaims that the capital kids are capital, it makes you realize how dispensable capital children are. And Dr. Gall does not hesitate to kill or potentially hurt capital kids, even though they're from rich families. And so he's like, so then what is real? If us as capital kids aren't safe and the district kids aren't safe, then what the fuck is this? He like needs to get his mind off of literally all the attacks that have happened in the past 2 days was to see Lucy Gray. But the districts are having it 10 times worse, okay? Because they're in cages and now they haven't been fed. Thanks to Arachne's killing, they have now been treated worse. They're in shackles. And Lucy Gray's following like a male district tribute, Jessup Diggs, gets bitten by something that is not a rat, but is something furrier. Don't know what that is later. So he comes with crackers for her and so she eats and she gives it to Jessup and she's like, hey, no, me and Jessup are allies now. We're gonna help each other out in the games because remember, the kids have to form allyships to survive. It's also gonna come back a little bit later. As we continue, Snow is called because remember the last time he helped carry Arachne's body when she was dying. Snow is now called to be able to sing at Arachne's funeral, which is strange, but whatever. It's Panem. And so he is called to sing the national anthem that the grandmam has been singing all of her damn life at this point. And so the grandmam coaches him and she's like, you have to sing it like this. And they go through like a little montage of that. And so he goes to the public and the way the camera footage was edited by Dr. Gall, what they did is that they made it seem as if this is against the Capitol, which it wasn't. And Coriolanus sings the song and he's like seen as like victorious and, you know, he's a good capital kid. Again, Arachne's death ends up benefiting Coriolanus Snow in a weird way. So after this whole entire funeral procession, Dr. Gall says that the Hunger Games are still on and all the tributes are lined up with their mentor students who go to the arena to have a tour, right? And the arena that is used, I think, was like an old circus performing area because there's a specific part where they enter through the arena and they have to have a ticket. And there's a machine that used to, like, Choreo was a kid, when they used to go to the circus, it would be like, enjoy the show. And now it's kind of a weird juxtaposition because the arena is now like desolate after the war. And there's this happy, chirpy thing that keeps on saying, enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show, even though this show is not enjoyable in the slightest. Suzanne Collins, I see what you was doing there, girl. I see you. So like they're talking and everything's okay. And then all of a sudden, a bomb goes off. I am not kidding. Like everyone's kind of chilling and the cameras are there and bam, an explosion. There's actually 2 bombs that go off in this explosion. And after the second bomb, Coriolanus can only, because this is his POV, Coriolanus can see Lucy Gray ahead of him, and he knows that something has fallen on top of him, which ends up being a beam that is actually on fire. He looks at Lucy Gray, and Lucy Gray kind of hesitates. Again, this is from his POV, so we're not fully sure, but she kind of like moves away, and then she sees that there's a beam on top of him, and then she like finally moved towards him, which could suggest that maybe she hesitated before trying to save him just a little bit, because other tributes had used the opportunity to run away. And the one tribute that definitely ran away was District 2 tribute Marcus. Lucy Gray hubs him up. Immediately, he's like rushed by the peacekeepers who are going to give him medical attention with a proper doctor and a proper hospital. And Lucy Gray instead is beaten, which makes no sense to me, even though she's the reason that he practically could live and she saved his life. It's very, very infuriating. Coriolanus goes to the hospital, and I would just like to mention here that I remember the discourse when he gets to the hospital and he asks about Lucy Gray, and the doctor assures him that the best veterinarian is going to treat Lucy Gray, which was very interesting. Why a tribute is going to be treated with a vet versus an actual doctor. That does not sound right to me, but I digress. So anyway, so after this explosion, 2 mentors / students who were twins also died, but they're not on this board. But TBH, they're not that important, okay? But they're dead, unfortunately. And also, unfortunately, the 2 District 6 tributes die. Lucy and Corio end up being okay, but we finally get to see somebody we haven't heard from, Clemencia. Clemencia shows up to Coriolanus's room when he's in the hospital, and she's of course frantic, and she's wondering if everyone thinks that she's dead because no one has come to visit her, which is not necessarily true. In fact, earlier in the chapters, Clemencia's parents came to visit her, but they were stopped by not the peacekeepers, but the people in the hospital, being told that she was quarantined or given some sort of flaky excuse, and as a result, Clemencia was left on her own. Unfortunately, Clemencia doesn't really look okay. In fact, when she meets Coriolanus, she shows him that part of her skin has like rainbow scales. Is that she's turning into like a reptile or something herself, and her eyes are like yellow, like girlie's going through it, okay? And Coriolanus is also kind of spooked out. But this little conversation will come back a little bit later. In between this and the games, after Marcus escapes, the games will still continue even though the arena has been bombed. And no one knows who really put the bombs in there. They're just quote unquote placed by rebels. The important thing here that happens between Lucy Gray's and Coriolanus's relationship here is that after they finally get to meet each other, her hands are definitely burnt from trying to help him. But the one thing that Coriolanus realizes is that he now actually owes Lucy Gray. You see, beforehand, a lot of the times it was him trying to help Lucy Gray, and in this situation that she was put in, he was technically not her savior, but the guy who was just supposed to help her, right? But now, seeing that she has also saved his life and not betrayed him and ran away, he now recognizes that he owes her more than just getting her sandwiches and trying to stay alive during the games. The way he thinks of relationships are very transactional. It's never like, oh, I care about this person and I just want to do something for them. It's, oh, they've done something for me, now I must do something for them. It's never normal. It's never normal. For Lucy Gray, however, she says the way you can repay my life is actually starting to think that I can win. Right? Which is a good point, because up to this time, they have not really discussed any strategies on how to win the upcoming Hunger Games, and the Hunger Games are extremely close by. And what Coriolanus has been doing is just been getting her to sing, but not telling her how to survive. Eventually, before the Hunger Games officially start, there is one more interview that is of importance. And I'm trying to summarize all the facts, because if I was to give every single fact, we would be here for 3 fucking hours. But basically, the most important thing here that's happening behind the scenes with the mentor/students is that Dr. Gall, behind the scenes, even though everyone has suffered this tragedy, and she asks the students to write a paper about what were the positive effects of the war, or like what do they like about the war. Again, a menace to society, for real. But in this final interview, the mentors get an opportunity to ask for sponsorships, and also the idea of being able to bet on a tribute has been introduced into these games, because before that was never a possibility. But that was, I think, introduced by one of the students during one of the mentor, student, and professor meetings. I forgot who it was suggested by. I don't know if it was Coriolanus and somebody together, but I do know that this was something new so that people could actively participate more and more in the games. A lot of people start betting on their tributes before they start with the games. And of course, Coriolanus makes sure that Lucy Gray uses the opportunity to sing something before the Hunger Games to remind them, hey, our girl is a talented girly. Okay, don't forget her. In this song, Lucy Gray sings about something that's very sad, actually. I don't have the full lyrics, so if I can find the excerpt, I can put it on the screen. But she sings this song in which she basically states about her life before she was taken in the reaping. She talks about this lover that she had during hard times. She would have to make a living by living off her charms, which, if you sort of give that in context, could also mean that she would have to sell herself and her charms. And in this song, even though she was in love with her lover would use the money that she earned and spend it all. Sort of like this weird like pimping situation, which again is horrifying and mirrors what Tigress has went through. But also remember, this girl is not, I don't think she's 18. I think everyone here is about 16, 17, maximum 18. And this was before the Hunger Games, right? That means that Lucy Gray could have been a minor during those times. That's disturbing. That is so disturbing. That is so disturbing. That is so disturbing. It's this sort of weird mirroring where Tigress and now Lucy Gray, two of the most like important women in his life, have had to sell their bodies to be able to make a living. And Coriolanus never had to do that in his bubble of privilege. It's very horrifying and it's actually quite sad. But then it gets worse, because while Lucy Gray is singing about this lover, she says that this lover had made a bet. Of course, it's a song, so you can't really understand what the bet is about. She says that she is the bet that he lost in the reaping, which is very interesting. And Coriolanus doesn't understand. Instead of him to like think and like reflect deeply, what does Coriolanus focus on? Jealousy. That's right. Coriolanus is jealous that Lucy Gray had a lover before the Hunger Games. Again, let's think about this in context. Lucy Gray has had to fall on hard times. She practically was a minor when she had to do all those things. And the guy that she was with was taking all her money and using it. And the only thing Coriolanus can think right now is jealousy. Jealousy over the fact that she had a lover. And he gets upset that she had a life before him in the Hunger Games. Why? Because Coriolanus is focused on control. Control is so important to Coriolanus. And the fact that Lucy Gray has had a life before the Hunger Games, he hates that. He hates that. And in this moment, you kind of also understand what Coriolanus really thinks about Lucy Gray. Yes, he's infatuated with her, but in his head, he thinks about how like she has been his girl, right? She is technically his property thanks to the way that the games are made. So he sees Lucy Gray as like his pet, his thing, his girl, and not as a full human being. And when she now like expresses the fact that she has a life, Coriolanus hates that. He hates that because he's so focused on control. With this, in their last sort of interaction before the games, Lucy Gray is obviously, you know, scared, shaken, quaking in her boots because, I don't know, she's going into the Hunger Games, okay? Snow gives her his mother's compact. One of the items that he has remaining of his mother that reminds him of his mother that he sleeps with every night is his mother's compact. And so he gives this to Lucy Gray before the games to sort of give her comfort, which is not allowed. He gives this to her and they sort of like confess that they're, you know, like they don't want to lose each other because again, they are very much trauma bonded by this whole entire situation. And they're also kids. So eventually in chapter 13, Lucy Gray and Coriolanus kiss. And they kiss, but also remember, this is not in private. This is in front of everybody because cameras are everywhere in the Capitol. And the two menaces to society, Dr. Gall and Dean Highbottom, witness this little kiss. And they're like, oh, that's so sweet. Too bad she's gonna die. Like, so while the tributes are being readied to go into the Hunger Games, the mentors are also being readied into the sort of game maker's room. They receive these things called communicuffs. They sort of are just explained to you how the games will work. Right before the games start, the District 2 tribute, Marcus, is being hung by his wrists. Remember, Marcus previously had tried to escape. Well, he was found, I think along with another tribute, and he was hung for everyone to see as punishment. Not hung by his neck, but by his wrists. It is horrifying, and it sends Sejanus into a fit. And that's how Marcus is going to be released into the games. So this horrific entrance happens, and the games start.